Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about my advice for new competitors. I actually prepared this video over a year ago, but I never made it since there weren't any comps. But now that comps are finally starting up again, I want to give my advice and share what I've learned from my experience of going to over 100 competitions. Let's get started. First, I want to talk about the timers. Competitions use these speed stacks timers. When it's your first comp and you're nervous, it's really easy to make a mistake using the timer. The most common thing that happens is that competitors don't hold it down long enough so it doesn't start. You need to hold it down until the green light comes on. Here's me at my first comp literally making that mistake. I'd highly recommend buying your own timer to practice on. They're like $30, but they're definitely worth it, and you can use it every day to practice. If you don't buy one, my advice would be to ask someone at the comp if you can borrow theirs for just a few solves so you can get used to it before it's your time to compete. I guarantee everyone will be really friendly, so don't be afraid to ask. Timer issues are a major cause of DNF averages, so I'd highly recommend practicing on one beforehand because it sucks to get a DNF average at your first comp. If it does happen though, don't be discouraged. Most people do bad at their first comp and you'll still have a great experience. Next, I want to talk about getting warmed up. When I got to my first comp, I noticed that literally everyone who went up to compete brought a second cube to play around with in the waiting area. This allows you to keep your hands warmed up while you're waiting to solve. It makes sense because when you're practicing at home, you're doing solve after solve with no breaks, but while you're competing, there's time in between each solve, so it's really important to keep your hands warmed up. If you're competing in 3x3, you could bring a 3x3 as your warm-up cube to practice on, or you could bring whatever your next event is if you want to get prepared. That's what I usually do. If a comp is cold and I'm really having trouble getting warmed up, I like to use hand warmers because having cold hands is not great for cubing. Next, I want to talk about practicing at comps, more specifically over-practicing, which is something I still struggle with. This is especially relevant to people who are participating in a lot of events. When you're in an environment where you're surrounded by cubes and cubers, all you want to do is cube, which is understandable, but it's really important to take some breaks so that your hands don't get tired. Competitions last around 8 hours, so your hands are definitely going to be tired by the end if you're cubing the whole time. I find that a lot of times my hands will get worn out towards the end, and that will cause me to perform poorly in finals, which sucks. It's necessary to practice, and like I said before, it's also important to make sure you're warmed up properly, but I would recommend taking short breaks from cubing every once in a while. Just make sure you don't over-practice so that you'll have enough energy for every event. Sometimes I have to force myself to take breaks from cubing, but it's worth it because it gives me a chance to relax and also more time to have fun and talk with people. Next, I'm going to talk about regulations. Of course, you should familiarize yourself with the WCA regulations before the comp. There's all kinds of rules that you might not expect. For instance, if you're planning on filming your solves, the rules are that each camera monitor must be blank or out of sight of the competitor, and the competitor must not interact with any active camera. This is something that I've seen people receive DNFs for just because they didn't know the rules. Again, if you make a mistake and get a penalty, it's really not a big deal. Just learn from your mistakes and you're still going to have fun at the comp. There's all kinds of regulations that you should look into, including inspection time restrictions, what you're allowed to wear, for instance, electronic headphones and earbuds are banned, and how to properly start and stop the timer. I have personally been penalized for stopping the timer incorrectly because I didn't have my palms down. So read the regulations carefully. I'll put a link to them in the description, and if you're confused about something, you can always ask a delegate at the comp. The last thing I want to say is just don't be afraid to talk with people. Pretty much everyone is super friendly, and of course everyone gets along really well because we all have something in common that we're cubers, so it's super easy to talk with people. Of course, be considerate and don't talk with someone if they're trying to practice or if they're competing, but any other time, don't be afraid. People are always willing to answer questions or give advice. The best part of comps is getting to meet new people and hang out with fellow cubers, so don't miss out on that. The competing aspect is fun, but what makes cubing competitions so special, in my opinion, is the people. Everyone is just so friendly and supportive, so it's a great place to be. So if you're planning on going to your first comp soon, I want to wish you good luck and have fun. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!